right here in Sandy Springs. He founded the company in 1999, and he ran the company for over 20 years, working with over 5,000 clients to help them achieve their exercise and weight loss goals. He sold the business in 2019. Rami, really good timing. And to pursue his next dream career, which is motivational speaking, writing, and coaching. Rami has a dual master's degree, one in industrial psychology and the other one in exercise physiology. He's certified by the American College of Sports Medicine as a health and fitness specialist. He worked for 11 years for Northside Hospital right here in Atlanta as an exercise physiologist. He's been a motivational speaker, a personal trainer, and a nutritional coach in various gyms and clients' homes all over the Southeast since 1992. Hands-on experience with over 1,000 clients. He also does various health-related presentations, health fairs for many companies and nonprofit organizations. So with that, Rami, thank you for being with us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome, Tim. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. This is the strangest way to do presentations. I hope you all know. I like to interact, which is going to be a little difficult here. So when I'm talking, I think, Kelly, we said just put questions into the chat room.
Yes.
And yeah, and that'd be a great way. And then we'll kind of address them at the end. And I also like to start with a little bit of exercise. If everybody's screen goes blank, I'll know that you're not doing it. So just so you know, if I see your picture disappear. So let's have everybody, you're not going to stand because you'll disappear, but just reach over your head, take a deep breath in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. As you breathe, drop your arms down, reach towards your camera, take another deep breath in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth, and just relax a little bit. And that's my whole presentation. I got to go now, Tim, so that was it. So thank you. So I'm going to take probably about 20 minutes and just go through sort of my observations that have happened over the last 8 weeks and kind of sprinkle that in with my experience as I've been doing all this. And as I said, please throw questions in for anywhere you kind of want this presentation to go, and we can always do that as well. It's funny, I think it was Andy who said he's been walking his dog. I heard a great story that dogs are actually hiding from their owners now because they're walking them so much, so they can't find their dogs, so that's the upside of all this. I think the downside is we're offsetting it by, we typically go for a walk and then we walk right to the refrigerator. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through. I'm going to share a screen, make sure you guys can see it. So pop that up. Cool. All right. Everybody see that? Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Kelly, if you can see it. Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So what I want to do is, typically this is about a 40-minute conversation about nutrition and exercise, but I want to filter in what I've seen. Like Tim said, I work with people individually and in groups, obviously been doing everything remotely. So I've had a great sort of litmus test of what's going on out there with people and how they've been reacting to this. I have a number of nutrition clients. I have corporate clients that I deal with. And I also have my personal experience. So these are the top 5 things. And I did this presentation for one of my corporate clients and it went over really well. So these are the things that I like to see people implement to make changes in their life. And then we'll add more as we go along. So number one, and I like to start with a story. I got to start this whole COVID thing in Jamaica. That was fun. I really wish that we had gotten stuck down there. We kept saying, oh, maybe we'll get, stranded in Jamaica for 2 months. And when I was down there, I was on my son's graduating from high school, and it was his spring break. And I was hearing things from people, but I really wasn't watching the news. And one night, kind of by mistake, I was waiting for him to get home, and I turned on the news, and it doesn't matter what news channel it was. And that was at about 1 in the morning. And I got sucked into it in a way that I've never been, not even in 9/11, and we've all been through a lot of stuff. And I literally did not sleep that night. And for me, it was a really powerful lesson. I feel very blessed that I get lessons like that to limit my connection to the news, especially at night. Everybody wants to be informed. My only thing to tell you is, if it's important, it's going to get to you. There's really no way to avoid this. So one of my first, when I'm checking in with people, and they're not sleeping, they're eating really poorly. I ask them, what is your routine when it comes to the news? And almost every one of them is either watching it or having it in the background all day. And they're also watching it right before they go to bed at night. And, you know, there's many things about that that aren't good. But, you know, really, really important is to shut that thing down. If you really have to do it, please shut it down an hour before you go to bed. And then I'll jump into kind of the bedtime routine that I've really helped people with. I'm going to just do a little prop here. You know, like these cool glasses. Aren't those amazing? Those are my blue light blocking glasses. Everybody has a pair of these, right? If you don't, by the way, everything I mention here is on my website. All the products that I talk about, I'm not trying to sell anything. I just do it so people can easily get to Amazon and get them. Before you go to bed, if you have the ability to put on blue light blocking glasses, they're like 10 bucks, 15 bucks on Amazon. It tricks your body into knowing that it's nighttime, because when you look at a screen, your body thinks it's the sun and it doesn't produce melatonin, which helps you sleep. So not only avoiding the news, but also avoiding your computer at night. I know it's really hard to do. 70% of Americans sleep with their iPhone. Strangest thing ever, but it is true. And the first thing they do in the morning is open it up and look at email and look at the news. So making that a habit, making that something you can control, because you can, is a really, really positive thing that I've seen impact people's lives. And, you know, I've seen it to degrees. I've seen it where somebody like me, I'm a black and white type personality, and I just really shut it down. I don't watch it. Like I said, it gets to me. You know, I get on Facebook, I get on social media. If the news is going to get to me, it's going to get to me. The other thing I did from the very beginning is I knew, just like in every other crisis in America, all the experts were going to pop up, the quote unquote experts. And so one of the things I did, and I really learned this during the 2016 election, was to kind of surround myself with more people that are more uplifting and positive. Not so much like Pollyannas where everything is perfect. We know this is a terrible situation, and I'm not trying to knock that down in any way, but really just surrounding myself, especially on social media, with people that were more positive and uplifting. The other thing I do, if you notice on the handout, I said, stick to the people you knew, BC. You guys have heard the terms now, BC, DC, and AC, you know, before Corona, during Corona, and after Corona. I think it's really tempting to jump on new experts during this time. And what I've done is I've really focused on the people, and most of them are either MDs or scientists, that I followed before any of this started. So if I want to listen to a podcast, if I want to get on media, if I want to learn something about viruses, about how to, you know, help my immune system, I go to the people that I had vetted years ago, not somebody new that just popped up on Twitter or social media or whatever. So that kind of uplifting, you know, if you are going to be there, and we're all on social media, that really has made a huge difference in people, you know, what I've seen people, because it's funny, you know, I'm an exercise person, I'm a fitness guy, I spend a lot of my time with nutrition, and I'm spending like 50% of my time dealing with things like this, which are, you know, what's your social media routine like? What's your computer time like? What's your sleep like? How often do you watch the news? How engaged are you in it? What are you talking about during the day? So that sort of leads me into what I like to say is a morning routine. And can't remember her name, but somebody talked about working out this morning. I took a note on that. And it's so important that we have some type of morning routine that sets the tone for the day. So I was watching Mark Cuban talk about his morning routine, and it was unbelievably the opposite of what I do in the morning. So he literally said, I wake up at 6:30, and the first thing I do is grab my phone and go for the most stressful things possible. And I was like, okay, let me understand this. He said, I like to get the stressful stuff out of the way first. And I'm like, makes sense. I understand that. I understand, you know, like you've got things that are pressing. He's obviously got more pressing things than I do. But to me, that sets the tone for my whole day. Like Tim said, I ran a gym for 20 years. I had a multitude of employees. We had, at one point, close to 500 active clients in a personal training gym. And I used to check my email first thing in the morning. And, you know, I don't know about you all, but I don't search through the emails looking for the happy ones when I wake up in the morning. I look for the ones that need my immediate attention and that are going to cause stress. From a physiological standpoint, that immediately puts my body into fight or flight. It raises my cortisol levels higher than they need to be. And it's really hard to come down off that. So to give you guys a sample of what I do in the morning, and again, this is just what I do. You can pick and choose from it. You could pick one thing, you could do none of it, but having a routine has really helped. And I've really doubled down on that during this time. I try to get up at the same time every day, even on the weekends, go to bed at a very similar time. That makes a huge difference. It's very tempting during this time to stay up later and to sleep later. It's funny, I'm consulting with a gym we're starting, obviously, we were starting a regular gym for people over 55 years old. And now we're all virtual. And, you know, when I was first consulting with this guy, I said, you know, our most popular time was 5 a.m. When I ran my gym. And guess what? It's not that popular anymore. So it's really, you know, it's changed. But I do get up at the same time every day. I don't get on the internet. I don't check emails. I do use my phone, but I have it on airplane mode, and I use it for prayer time, for meditation, for breathing. I'm going to give you all a breathing technique before we end today that's super, super simple for de-stressing. I do visualization, a lot of the stuff that Jack Canfield talks about in his books, real big fan of his. I do just gratitude time, and that can be literally 30 to 60 seconds. I keep a journal, and every day I just challenge myself to have 3 things that I'm grateful for. Interestingly enough, coffee is one of those almost every morning. So, you know, that's something I'm always grateful for, but they don't have to be anything big. And again, everything about that is setting my state for the day. So if I do that, and by the way, it's 99.9% of the time that I do that. Some days is longer than others, but some days it's 5 minutes total. If I do that, I have a better day. Doesn't matter what the day brings me, I approach it better. And then I exercise after that. I do some form of exercise first thing in the morning. And, you know, that, Tim, you said great timing on selling my business. You know, wasn't planned, obviously. You know, gyms are really having a tough time now. I'm still involved with the gym. But the other thing I do that makes me look like I really knew what was going on is I bought a Peloton about a month before all this happened. If you guys know that, it's the indoor bicycle that you can use at home. I look like I'm a brilliant genius when it comes to seeing the future with that. So having something that I can do in the house has been great. So I have an exercise program, and then I hit the day. And I tend to end my days a little earlier during COVID, and really not because I don't have work to do, but I find that there's a kind of a buildup of the whole day of everything that's going on. I tend to have to end a little bit earlier, and I've just been going with that. And I've been really productive during the day. It's hard to delineate between work and home. So, you know, morning routine is super important. And then leading into that, and I've already talked about this, is my number 3, which is focusing on what you can control. So one of the number one things I saw, especially with my nutritional clients, I would deal with a lot of people looking to lose weight, is that they felt very out of control. And when we feel out of control, when something like this happens, we lean towards not the healthiest food. I mean, I remember, you know, you think about during 9/11, people were not ordering in chicken breasts and broccoli. You know, pizza was very, very popular during that time. And that's a physiological response. That's not something you're choosing. But when you feel out of control, you try to sometimes control it by doing sometimes bad habits. And so what I say to people is focus on what you can control. So I've had people that I've worked with for years that we've taken it all the way back to the beginning, where for just a couple of weeks, all we work on is water. Like literally it is try to drink, you know, this amount of water. And for a little tidbit for you guys, a great goal is half your body weight in ounces of water per day. About 70 to 80% of Americans don't get that. And then that's just something super simple that people can control. So to give you guys some tidbits on what to work on, you know, controlling what's in your house. I heard a few people talk about the kitchen is like the main place to go to. How many of you guys have found yourself walking to the refrigerator, opening it, and just staring at it for 30 seconds, like 10 times a day, right? It's this, you know, it's like another TV or something in the house. I really don't understand it. But but I do it too. And so focusing on those things, like what I just said, going to bed at the same time, what nutrition is in your house, working on your water, the exercise that I heard almost everybody getting, which is wonderful. These are things you can control. The news, what's going on, what's happening with the virus, completely out of our control. One of the things I said in the very beginning of this is that this hopefully is going to be a wake-up call for our nation and for the world when it comes to health. Because no matter how much hand washing we do, no matter how much social distancing, we're all going to come in. We've probably all already come in contact with this virus. What the most important thing to do is booster your immune system. And working, that's what we can control. Yes, you can control how much you go outside and all that, but eventually we're all going to have to re-enter society. So working on those things like water. By the way, water, and this came out in the very beginning, this virus loves dry surfaces. It lives better on them. So having water with you, warm beverages are great. Keeping your throat moist is a great thing to do. So very simple. I keep big glass of water. I know how many ounces this is, and I drink 3 of these a day, and that gives me half my body weight. When you're exercising in the summer, you drink a little bit more. So that's focusing on what you can control. Here's a big one, obviously became popular in the last week. I do hear about the news with the sunshine and the vitamin D and President Trump talking about it. But I said this from the very beginning when I was in Jamaica, that vitamin D boosts your immune system, and there's a couple of ways to get vitamin D. I do both, and one is a liquid vitamin D, a D3, and again, anything I talk about on my website, I've already vetted it. I use them personally, so you guys can check them out. Easy way to find them. And then direct sunlight, and direct sunlight without sunscreen and without sunglasses. And that's really, and then I don't want you guys walking outside naked, but if you need to, you do it. But it's really getting as much of your skin exposed to the sun, and it can be 15 minutes a day. It's a happiness hormone. It's great for immunity, makes you feel better. And so I've been doing that every single day. And earlier in the day is great, when you can get outside. So super important thing to do. The other thing is, man, we're spending a lot of time indoors. And just to share another story, I'm a big time outdoors person. Tim didn't mention it, but I've written a bunch of books about running in nature, a spiritual connection that I have, and what I've done with that. And I do a lot of trail running, and I have not been on the trails in 8 weeks. So nature to me is super, super important. And it's so important for stress and so important for immunity. And by the way, probably the safest place to be. The parks in the beginning of this were super crowded, but they're not as crowded now. And the ones that are open. So getting out in nature is super important, but you don't need to drive up to Dahlonega to go to the park. It doesn't have to be that much. I found the story I want to share is like, we were talking about Zoom calls, Tim. I had a day of 5 of these back to back, and they were great. And I was having a great time, but I was in a room like this for like 5 hours, back to back, go grab a cup of coffee, get back here. And my stress level, for no reason, like there wasn't anything going wrong. There wasn't anything different. I just felt it welling up. I walked out of my house, walked around the block twice, and it was completely gone. And so I've used that sample for people, just like when you feel it happening, go outside, get away from it, and try not to bring your phone with you. Just if you do, just put it on airplane mode and just put on inspirational music. So every day I want people getting outside, every day. And we've had the most beautiful weather. I don't know, I've seen the pictures of the skyline of LA. I'm sure you've all seen that with no pollution. I'm sure it has something to do with it, because this has been the last week or 2 have been unbelievable. So please get out there if you're in Atlanta or anywhere, okay? And then the other thing is some type of movement. So the other thing I've done with a lot of my clients is really simplify what they're doing in terms of exercise. Some people are blessed. They have a wonderful gym in their home. They've been working out at home for a long time. They're good at it. Other people have been going to a gym and they don't even know how to work out at home. Other people are trying to start an exercise program because they have more time on their hands. So I can scroll down a little bit. One of the things I've done is I've started posting free workouts for everybody 3 times a week on my Facebook page. So that's one of the free resources that I have. These are workouts that you can do anytime, anywhere, with 0 equipment. Now, if you have equipment and you've got weights and you've got bands, you can make it even more intense. If you're advanced, if you're like the guy that said does HIIT workouts, fantastic. You'll love these. You can make them more tough, but you can make them as simple as you want. You can reach out to me with questions. If you have a knee injury, if you have mobility injuries, like somebody said, just private message me and I'll give you different exercises to do. And this is all, I'm just trying to give as much content as possible. These have been really, really popular. So that's on my personal page. And Tim, I think can we just post this afterwards in the show notes or something? Okay, great. Yeah, so that way everybody has access to that. The other thing too is part of my book page. I do inspirational quotes every day with nice pictures. They're not as fun as they used to be. They used to be pictures of mountains and trails and places that I would go. Now they're 800 pictures of my neighborhood. I'm sure you've all really gotten used to your neighborhoods at this point, and you know your neighbors. But I do that, and I do an inspirational quote every morning. So if you like something like that, please like that page. But the workouts as well, I think what I've heard almost everyone has been really great about is walking, biking, doing some form of cardiovascular exercise, which is wonderful. What I've really seen neglected is strength training. And for everyone, but especially people in the 40 and up group, strength training is one of the most important things you can do in terms of longevity, mobility, how you feel, how you look, and for immunity. And the beauty of strength training is the time commitment is nowhere near what cardio is. So I've trained people for years that literally committed to 2 half-hour strength training sessions a week. That's it. I say 8 times a month to keep it simple, and gotten great results. So again, those are the workouts that I'm posting. And I'm available anytime you guys want. Tim, I'm giving everybody on this a free 30-minute consult call if they just want to talk about exercise, if they want to talk about nutrition, if they want to dive a little deeper into nutrition. That's what I do. I love it. So please, reach out to me if you can, okay? And then the other thing in terms of exercise is the company that I'm consulting with, we're offering free workouts like this, a little harder than that stretch I did in the beginning. So, a little more than that. But we're offering a free sample workout. It's called Vivo, called Team Vivo, and I've posted that too. A free workout to everybody who wants to try that. And there's no obligation. You can just try it, and it's stuff you can do at home. And that's worked out really well. So these are kind of the top 5 that I've seen. And then what I'd love to do, I can't see the chat, so I don't know if questions have popped up, Kelly, but I'd like to open it up to more of a discussion if that's okay, so we don't go too long, and see where people want to take this, if that's all right, because this is kind of the top 5. Yeah.
So Rami, we've got 2 questions so far, both from Duffy. The first question is, how do you get your spouse to watch less news and put away your screen?
Duffy, if you can figure that out, please tell me, because that is one of the biggest things I've seen. So, the only thing that I've seen is leading by example. One of the things that's fallen off for us is going to church, going to mass, and it's online, and I'm still doing it. So just leading by example. That's the best I can do.
And his second question is, does the use of sunscreen prevent getting the vitamin D that you talked about?
Yeah, it's sort of ironic. What they're seeing an uptick in certain types of cancers, especially ovarian and a couple of others, that are due to low vitamin D. So the latest epidemiological study is that 95% of Americans are low on vitamin D. And it's a simple test you can get done at your doctor, super cheap. In fact, most of them will do it as part of your regular panel. And it's just so simple to get it up. But yes, all the really great sunscreens that came out have caused those type of cancers to increase. So we just can't win. The eggs are good, eggs are bad, that debate. So overusing sunscreen is really, really good for preventing burns. And that's what you want it for. So if you go to the beach, absolutely. I wear 30 when I go to the beach. But when I sit out in my backyard for 15 minutes, I don't wear any. I do it that way.
So we'll take some additional questions. If you just want to raise your hand, if you have a question, I'll be happy to call on you. What questions do you have for Rami?
Let's see. I'm bumping them up.
Ready? Yep. Go ahead, Van.
So you're right. I'm still doing my cardio with the bike. I used to do stationary bike over at the gym, and so with the hills, I've been able to get my pulse rate up with riding the bike. But what I'm not doing now is the strength equipment, I don't use free weights. I use I can't remember what you call it, but the
Machines, like
machines.
the flexorized
Yeah.
machines, yeah.
So I always just drop down and give myself a few push-ups, and that's a quick one.
Yep.
That gets my pulse rate up, especially if you do like 45 or 50 of them. But you got to be careful with your shoulders and things like that.
Yeah.
You go down too far.
Yeah. So one of the things, if you go to my Facebook page, I hope you all do, the workouts that I give are pretty typically total body workouts. So they're a little bit of everything to give balance. And there's 3 levels: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And the beginner ones, I didn't have a whole lot of time yesterday, so I just did a quick one. The whole thing took me 16 minutes. And I did every body part that I had. Now I have bands and a couple of weights at home, so it helps to do kind of pulling motions. But Van, one of the things, because push-ups are great, right? And push-ups and sit-ups, that's what you can do when you don't have equipment. Problem is you only work in the front of your body. So people tend to get really kind of, and we're like this all day anyway. We're protracted, we're leaning forward into the computer. So what we really need is stuff that opens us up. So I would highly recommend, it's funny, you couldn't get anything on Amazon when this whole thing started. Do you guys, anybody try to get on and get bands or free weights? They're all sold out. Now you can get them. And I recommend, especially if you're going back to the gym after this is done, just get like 3 or 4 bands, the ones with the handles. They look like big rubber bands, and you can do everything. And just reach out to me and I'll shoot you a bunch of workouts you can do with those. Super simple. And I love them. Most of my friends that travel, they throw them in their suitcase and they just do a workout in their hotel room to save time.
Thank you.
Rami, it seemed like a couple of years ago, a lot of people were talking about the importance of using standing desks. And now it seems like maybe the pendulum has swung back on that. Would you recommend standing desk?
Yeah, I recommend all of them, but I don't recommend people do it for 8 hours a day. It's actually really hard on people's lower backs and things. It was like, I don't know if you guys remember, but the big resistor balls they use that you sit on, that are this big, that you do core and you do planks and all that. There was a push to sit on those instead of your chair. And of course, being an ultra marathoner, I decided to do 10 hours on that thing the first day I did it. And I could barely walk the next day. So my answer to that, Tim, is I think they're a great idea, but I would do them about 50% of the time. So if you have one, I would still sit. I would move around. The most important thing for working at a desk is getting up and moving around. Whatever it takes for you to do that, like an alarm on your watch. The Fitbits are great. Don't they yell at you when you don't move? I hear my wife's going off sometimes, move, but anything that gets you to just get up and move around. One of the biggest complaints I get in my job and in my industry is my lower back hurts. And what people don't realize is that movement is the best thing to do for lower back pain. Laying around doing nothing is the worst thing to do, especially for arthritis. So, yeah.
Any other questions for Rami before we do break into some discussion groups? Yeah, Nadine?
I don't know if you recommend, or I don't know what your opinion is about for supplements. They keep saying about the building, your immune system to fight the COVID virus, like the elderberry. Do you have any opinion on those?
Yeah, that's a great question, and probably the number 3 question that I get during this, right? So I've been doing this for over 30 years. I've experimented with everything from multivitamins to Juice Plus to drinks and all that. The best thing I've found and the best one out there is a greens powder. And the reason I like that is because it's made from plants and fruits, right? So there's no chemicals. It's not synthesized vitamin C. It's vitamin C from a plant. Super easy to drink. And the one I like is called Athletic Greens. I won't lie, it's not cheap, but I take one every day till I start my morning. And I tell you, from an immunity standpoint, how I feel, I mean, I hate this statement, but they call it an insurance policy. It covers everything. It's got prebiotic, probiotics. It has digestive enzymes. It has everything. I think it's maybe $2 a day it comes out to for serving. But Athletic Greens, and again, all on my website, absolutely love it. Really do. Way better than a multivitamin because it's assimilated a lot better. I obviously love vitamin D. I take a liquid D3 every day. Take more in the winter than you do in the summer. If you belong to a pool, you don't need as much vitamin D. But again, get your vitamin D measured when you can get back to the doctor. Really, really important. And then I take a fish oil as well. I don't eat enough fish. Most people don't. So I take a really high quality fish oil as well. And that's about it. That's really it. The most important supplement is food. Yeah, it's funny. People always want, like, I'm working with a 16-year-old kid, and chocolate, his goal is to put on muscle, right? And I said, the best thing you can do is eat a ton of really good food, and then add things like creatine and other supplements. But 95% to 98% of the equation is your normal food that you're eating, and then the supplements just added on top. Yeah.
Rami, it seems like a lot of people are doing periodic fasting.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love it. And I was doing it before it became the rage. So I've been doing it for almost 10 years. I've done a number of different formats of it. I will tell you that I have 10 to 15 nutritional clients that I work with on a weekly basis. Every single one of them is doing some form of fasting. And so I absolutely love it. It's the best intervention I've ever seen. It's fantastic for immunity. But one of the things I did, in fact, when I was in Jamaica, I went on the doctor that I follow, and his name is Peter Attia, by the way. I don't have that on the sheet, but it's called The Drive, is his podcast. He's super brilliant and super dry, so drink a lot of coffee before you get on with this guy, but he's great. I went on his, and I saw what was his recommendations during COVID for fasting. And actually, he said to kind of limit it. You can still do like the 16-8. Are you familiar with that, Tim? Where you don't eat you don't eat in a 16-hour and you eat in an 8-hour window. Those are fine, and extended fast up to 48 hours are fine. But anything more than that, it acutely lowers your immune system. It helps your immune system in the long run. So one of the things I do is I do an extended fast once a quarter of 72 hours. And I've stopped doing that completely during COVID, because anything past 48 hours, there's a big rise in cortisol, which lowers your immune system really just for a day, because then the great thing that happens is you actually replace your white blood cells. But I don't want my immune system lowered if I can help it. So I'm recommending people just, if you've never fasted, if you're going to start really, really mellow with maybe a 14-hour fast daily. The other thing I recommend to people, if you don't like the daily fasting, once a week for 24 hours is really, really powerful. And the best way to do that is dinner to dinner. So I do that Sunday night dinner to Monday night dinner. I love to fast when I'm working. It's so counterintuitive, but I'm actually more productive when I'm fasting and clearer headed. And if you do it dinner to dinner, 8 hours of your fast is sleeping, which is, anybody can do that, right? But yeah, highly, highly recommend it. Again, if you've never done it, please reach out to me. I've got some stuff on my website, some things on that and the keto diet and stuff, but I'll walk you through it. It'd be a 10-minute phone call, kind of how to get started and things to do, like how much water to drink and electrolytes to take and all that.
Okay. Well, Rami, thank you. What we want to do next is we're going to put each of you into a discussion group and give you about 5 or 7 minutes within your discussion groups to talk about what you heard from Rami, what were your takeaways, talk about what you've been doing in terms of your own health that's been working, and also what maybe has not been working so well in terms of your own health. And then we'll have you come back and we'll report out from your groups.